Today, I want to talk about what I believe is the best full-frame vlogging lens for Sony E-Mount. I'm going to go over everything that matters to me, what I look for in a lens, and compare the lens I went with similar vlogging lenses on the market. Okay, so for context, 4 months ago, I made the biggest camera-related decision of my life. I sold all of my Canon gear, all of my lenses, and went all in on Sony. Now, this was not a decision I took lightly, and I started to really reevaluate what lenses I needed. I wanted to find the perfect lenses for me. When looking for a vlogging lens, I decided there were 5 primary features that really mattered. First up is price. Obviously, I needed to be able to afford the lens, but I also wanted it to be replaceable if something horrible happened. For under $1,000, I found the Tamron 17-28 2.8, the Sigma 16-28 2.8, and the Sony 20mm f1.8. The Tamron currently comes in at $800, and it's been that price for a while. Meanwhile, the other 2 lenses come in at $900, so if you want to save $100, go with the Tamron, but it's a pretty close race. Next, let's talk weight. I used to not even consider weight. I was like, I'm in shape, I don't mind carrying heavy stuff, I want the best image possible. I'm the complete opposite now. Especially when vlogging, I find that using a bigger setup is a pain in public places, I end up shooting less, and it's just not as fun. When it comes to weight, the Tamron weighs in at 420 grams, the Sigma is 450 grams, and the Sony is only 373 grams. For some context, the difference between the Sigma and the Sony is about 77 grams, which is about the weight of 3 AA batteries. When it comes to focal lengths, I really started to wonder, what is a good focal length for vlogging? Personally, it needs to be able to fit me in frame, ideally another person in frame, and be able to show off the background a little bit. It can't just be a tight, blurry mess. And ideally, I can be relaxed while using it and not straining my arm, pulling muscles, trying to get everything in frame. So at a relaxed, real-world distance, not like fully outstretched, this is what 17mm looks like. This is what 20mm looks like. This is 24mm. And lastly, we've got 28mm. All these lenses would work, but wider is better, so that's gonna be a point for the Sigma. But we're not done, because for my style of vlogging videos, I need to be able to shoot B-roll with the lens, and that's where having a longer focal length as well is really useful. Obviously, they can all shoot wide shots, but when using a wider focal length on close subjects, things start to look a little wonky. Even if you're keeping the subject the same size within the frame, things start to look a lot better with a longer focal length. Also, wide lenses don't really isolate subjects as well, as there's just so much of the background in frame, you can't zoom in at all. Aperture was also a big consideration for me for 2 reasons. First, it helps when shooting cinematic B-roll. Faster apertures are great for that, so that's really nice about the Sony. I don't need to obliterate the background when filming myself, but when filming other things, f1.8 can look really nice. Additionally, a lot of the time when vlogging, I have almost no control over the lighting, so when shooting in low light, f1.8 is gonna let in over twice as much light as f2.8, which is definitely significant. And then there's weather resistance. Again, without control over the conditions I'm shooting in, I like my lenses to have some sort of weather protection. I do a lot of hiking and filming outdoors, so this is always appreciated. Thankfully, all of these lenses have some sort of protection against the elements, but some might be a little bit better than others. Taking all of that into consideration, I did end up ruling out the Sony, mostly because it's a prime lens. 20mm was doable on the wide end, although not ideal, but not being able to zoom makes me want to carry another lens, and I didn't want that. I wanted one lens to do it all. And my Sony a7 IV can already do pretty dang good in low light. As for the Sigma and Tamron, I ended up going with the Tamron because I found a really good deal on a used one. That's it. They're pretty much identical. The Tamron is going to shave off just a little bit of weight, and the Sigma is going to give you 1 more millimeter on the wide end. The one quirk with the Tamron though is it doesn't have a switch to go from manual focus to autofocus. It's incredibly easy to do in your camera, but I thought that quirk was worth mentioning. There are definitely a few other aspects to consider, like sharpness, but I don't really need my pores and pimples to be any more visible. My Sony a7 IV is sharp enough as it is. Looking at it now, any of these lenses would have worked for under $1,000. The decision is basically, do you want a zoom lens with a better focal range, or do you want a prime lens with a faster aperture? That's it. The choice is yours.